today, we are here with this amazing coalition because this year, there's a historic opportunity for food system visioning and transformation. This is the Food System Summit at the United Nations. This hasn't happened before. This is the first time to think about food systems and not just food, not just hunger, to understand that the food system is interconnected and complex and permeate, environment and climate change and social dynamics. This is the opportunity, but yet the agenda was set behind closed doors. Yet the agenda was decided by the few, not the many. So peasant and indigenous communities all around the world are uniting in opposition. They're uniting in opposition and launching their own summit. And so today we have the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty, who has helped bring together all these panelists. We're going to be broadcasting in Spanish, Arabic, and English. So please click this button down here, choose the language you prefer, and listen in. We're going to have amazing panelists from over 11 countries around this world. Okay? I want to thank the interpreters. I want to thank them for helping facilitate this conversation, this much needed conversation in multiple languages so that people around the world can tune in. I want to thank you for your hard work. I know it's not easy. I want to thank Josh and Dima and the organizers because this kind of work is difficult and I appreciate it. And I want to, again, thank you all for coming to listen, to learn, to be part of something. Because I understand that we all hunger for something. We all hunger for this knowledge and for the understanding of why our food system looks the way it does. Why is hunger all around the world when we already produce enough food for over 10 billion people? Why do we create and perpetuate narratives that we need to produce more to feed the world? And we're here to listen to the communities on the front lines. And so I thank these communities for coming in. I thank you all for tuning in and joining this community. And please, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, share your comments, share the post so more and more people can tune in. So I'd like to introduce Razan to start the roundtable introductions for all of the panelists. Razan, you're on mute.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. Thank you so much, AGC, for organizing this very important event. This important event that's bringing us together as a very important, and as you said, it's very historic. It is to prove that we are the ones to be heard. And I'm really proud today and honored to present to you all PCFS as a co-organizer of this global important summit. The People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty, PCFS, is a global South-led network of small food producers, particularly peasant and its support NGO working for food sovereignty. It was formally established in November 2004 during the Asia-Pacific People's Convention on Food Sovereignty. Since 2018, which was the 4th General Assembly of the PCFS, our member organizations are now more than 200, coming from 53 countries in Asia, West Asia, North Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean and Africa. PCFS focuses on movement building and mass organizing at grassroots level, and we support and highlight the community level struggles of our members. For example, resistance against land grabbing or reclaiming lands through collective actions and making it productive that directly benefits the communities and their families. And here, me as a Palestinian, I would like to tell you about our action in Palestine as part also of PCFS, we have launched this Million Tree campaign to replant olive olive trees that are uprooted by the Zionists. And we have achieved till now planting 2.5 million trees, knowing that they have uprooted in the last few years 3 million trees. So it's a part of our green resistance and part of the global work towards real food sovereignty. I hope you will look at this campaign and be supporter of it. Let me stress that the culmination of our food sovereignty struggle in PCFS is the actual or full realization of people's democracy in all aspects of the food and agriculture system, including production and social relations, national policies, and so on. We strongly believe that the assertion of people's rights and sovereignty goes beyond codified obligations and function of governments. For us, people's democracy includes the power to change governance at the community level and or national level that no longer upholds people's aspirations. For decades, imperialism dominates our food, our agriculture, our culture, and our land. Israel, as you know, is annexing the West Bank and our food basket. Imperialist countries and their allies are imposing sanctions. They are imposing sanctions on Cuba, Venezuela, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, which is unfortunately has been amplified by the global pandemic. Elsewhere, farmers are being killed nonstop and by the hundreds in the name of land grabbing for plantations, mining, and industrial hubs, mainly for profit. Food blockades artificially induce famines in numerous communities in the Philippines, India, Yemen, Nigeria, Brazil, Colombia. These are some of the challenges that we are facing. Despite this, we will work and make sure to build a brighter future for the working peoples of the world. Thank you again, and looking forward for a very fruitful meeting. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarojini Rengam. I'm with Pesticide Action Network Asia and the Pacific. We are one of the 5 regional centers of Pesticide Action Network International. PANEP works for the elimination of harm caused by pesticides on human health and the environment. PANEP also promotes agroecology, helps strengthens people's movements in their assertion of their rights to land and livelihoods, and advances food sovereignty and gender justice. As a network, PANEP is currently comprised of more than 100 partner organizations from the Asia-Pacific region and links with more than 400 regional, global, civil society and grassroots organizations. We wanted to also, we are one of the co-organizers of the People's Food System Summit. For us, food and agriculture is really a critical, important issue and life. And we believe that it needs to be ecologically produced by small food producers, including women who own their land and resources, including access to local seeds, water, credit, and local markets. This includes the rights of indigenous peoples over their territories, fisherfolk over aquatic resources, and right over pasture land for pastoralists. A safe working environment for agricultural workers with living wages, ensuring the right to nutritious and culturally appropriate food for all. Finally, we believe a future without chemical pesticides and fertilizers in food production is possible, and we need to have that kind of transformation, a transformation that would dismantle corporate power and the influences over the international agency and national governments. So the struggle for us is not just technical, but it is also political. And we see the lack of support of governments for people's rights and food sovereignty. We will continue to document and expose the corporate capture of food and agriculture, including agrochemical TNCs that produce pesticides, and support the rights of peasants for land and resources through our No Land, No Life campaign, and working at the regional and global level to campaign for food sovereignty and the right to food for all. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, this is Chennaya from India, working with agriculture workers, fisher folk and indigenous people as a PVBU. I'm being the chairperson of Asian Peasant Coalition, introduced our platform. Asia Peasant Coalition is an Asia-wide struggling people's coalition that struggles for the rights of the farmers, landless peasants, fisher folk, agriculture workers, Dalits, indigenous people, herders, pastoralists, including women and youth across these sectors. It has more than 15 million members representing 43 organizations. We have membership from 11 countries in Asia, such as Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mongolia, Nepal, Pakistan, and APC commemorates the Day of Landless annually, every March 29th. This year, our call is to end corporate control in food and agriculture, fight for genuine land reforms and rural development to truly transform the world food systems. A sign on statement was endorsed by 101 organizations and networks across the globe. APC also launched its Peasants Rise Up broadcast series, which will feature countries like Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and others from April until July. It will tackle the different peasants and land issues in the countries relevant to our campaign for food systems change. These efforts will culminate in an international peasant press forum on July 19th in the time for the UNFSS pre-summit in Rome. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Gertrude.
Is that me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my name is Gertrude Kenyanji. I'm from Uganda. I work with an organization, a grassroots organization called Support for Women in Agriculture and Environment. And I'm the immediate past representative to the civil society mechanism for engagement with Committee on Food Security at FAO. And I'm involved with a lot more movements. And I'm a member of the People's Coalition for Food Sovereignty Africa. Well, what is the future of food and agriculture for my organization? What do we envision? In terms of food, Swagen envisions wholesome, healthy, and culturally appropriate food, produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods, available in sufficient quantities for all that consume it. In terms of agriculture, Swagen envisions local food production as the key for food security, a robust and farmer-led domestic food production as the best safeguard against market shocks and price volatility. And we are looking at staple food crops to be prioritized in local food production. How are we advocating for this vision? Evidence-based advocacy is what we are doing. We are gathering good practices from the ground and engaging policymakers, technocrats in the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Fisheries, and research organizations in Uganda, such as NARO and ASERECA, to advance, we put forward our best practices as evidence. What are the biggest challenges our Swagen is facing in advocating for that vision? Our biggest challenges is having to contend with powerful corporations that are advancing a different agenda. They fund Agora a lot with a lot of money to facilitate research institutions and farmer organizations with 4x4 double cabin vehicles, lab equipment, higher education opportunities which they cannot refuse. And they make them a condition for them to be able to access those goodies. They must put on their agenda the GMO agenda. So there are very few that can stand the ground, the moral ground, and resist and stare these gifts, powerful, rich gifts in the face, and stand on a moral leg and say, no, thank you, no. So that's it. Over.
Thank you, Gertrude.
Yes.
Thank you very much. This is Jiten Yumnam speaking on behalf of the International Indigenous Peoples Movement for Self-Determination and Liberation, which is a global network of Indigenous peoples' rights advocates, which are an organization committed to advancing the rights of Indigenous peoples to self-determination, land and life. And as one of the co-organizers of this summit, of the People's Summit, what the IPMSCL, our network, has been focusing on advancing Indigenous people's self-determination over our land resources. And for many of the Indigenous peoples, controlling our food system is extremely important, given the fact that the Indigenous people's food system has been one of the key food systems we should be promoted, we should be further recognized, and we should be further advanced. And also in the context that the Indigenous people's land and territories are increasingly threatened by the ever-increasing corporate expansionism and the violence associated. No? And Indigenous peoples are one of the most impacted by the corporate capture of agriculture and also the associated development aggression that threaten not just the livelihood and survival, but also the very culture, identity, and tradition of Indigenous peoples. So in terms of advancing our vision, one of our key focus of the network and the constituent member is to challenge the corporate capture of Indigenous people's land and territories by extractive industry, by energy projects like large dam plantation, which threaten Indigenous people's food system, and also our own very livelihood and our own survival, the intergenerational survival. And we also challenge the rights violation committed by the corporate bodies along with the governments. And another focus is to build solidarity among the different Indigenous groups and advocacy groups so that we are able to assert our self-determination over our land and resources to control our own food system and also to contribute in the larger sustainable context of a larger sustainable development. Yeah. So with that, I do look forward to further sharing and discussion in the coming sessions. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hola a todos, a todas. Henry Morales de Guatemala. Somos parte de la coalición de los pueblos por la soberanía alimentaria de América Latina y el Caribe. Igual que todas las organizaciones que estamos en este panel, nos complace mucho poder ser parte de este debate político en el marco de la Cumbre Popular Mundial de los Pueblos, y fundamentalmente porque en este contexto de pandemia global queda nuevamente reflejado la perversidad de este sistema capitalista neoliberal que domina, que controla a la humanidad. Nosotros siempre hemos considerado que para poder realmente plantearnos transformar esta realidad de muerte, este sistema de muerte, solo se va a poder hacer si todos los pueblos del mundo nos juntamos y luchamos por un ideal de cambio. Es indudable que no lo podemos hacer manejando un discurso solo de saludar o de intentar pasivamente cambiar las cosas. Hay que tener acciones, tenemos que asumir nuevamente nuestro origen de luchadores, luchadoras, asumir una postura antiimperialista, una postura anticapitalista y de atrevernos a tomar el poder, el tomar el poder político desde los pueblos y desde ahí generar los cambios. Así que es un gusto poder participar con ustedes en este espacio de reflexión y seguramente, y así lo esperamos, desde la región de América Latina y el Caribe, saldrán muchas ideas para fortalecer la lucha desde una perspectiva mundial. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas, y gracias.
Gracias, Henry. Next, we have Mr. P.P. Sivapagrasam. Okay. We'll come back to you then. How about Hakeem?
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Hakeem Baliraine, the chairperson of Eastern and Southern Africa Small Scale Farmers Forum. ESAF is 18 years old network, initiated and owned by more than 2 million smallholder farmers doing advocacy work in 16 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa. All the 6 countries in East Africa are part of the membership, and the 10 countries in the southern part of Africa. I'm also the chairperson of ESAF Uganda, which is a member of ESAF, but our headquarters is based in Tanzania, Morogoro, for all the 16 countries. My organization envisions future food and agriculture that is agroecological based, putting small-scale farmers at the heart of production and processing, caring for the health of the planet and the people, nutritious and safe from harmful chemical fertilizers and pesticides. That's why we advocate for food sovereignty, the rights of women and men to own, use seeds, land, water, and increase public funding to small-scale farmers agriculture, and we emphasize the right to have our voices in policy dialogue from grassroots to national level, and also the East African community, the South African Development Committee, at African Union, and at the United and the UN level. We are a grassroots. We have grassroots members who do their work in their own countries and feeding it at the regional level. And each country has its own secretariat where they advocate, campaign, and do lobby for the policy makers to make sure that policies are geared towards mainstreaming the issues that affect and concern smaller scale farmers at the grassroots. I thank you.
Thank you, Hakeem. Badia?
أهلا، سعيدة بتواجدي معكم في هذا الطاولة المستديرة المهمة حول موضوع بالغ الأهمية. أنا بديعة أعراب، أمثل الشبكة العربية للسياد على الغذاء، التي هي منظمة تأسست في ظل تحولات عالمية عميقة تعتمد يعني خيار تكتلات، وكان يعني الشبكة جاءت كإجابة تنظيمية لتوحيد الرؤى في ظل وضع عربي يعني متميز بالتشتت وضياع الطاقات والقدرات. الشبكة العربية تأسست سنة 2012 كهيئة تنسيقية مدنية مستقلة تنطلق من مبدأ السيادة على الغذاء وتعزيز استراتيجيات الصمود ويعني التي تواجه المجتمعات العربية، مواجهة الأسباب التي يعني أمام حالة الانكشاف الاجتماعي والاقتصادي والزراعي والبيئي التي تواجه المجتمعات العربية. الشبكة العربية يعني تضم في عضويتها أزيد من 30 منظمة غير حكومية واتحادات مزارعين وصيادين ورعاة وعمال ونساء وشباب، بالإضافة إلى جمعيات مستهلكين من 13 دولة من العالم العربي. وتسعى الشبكة العربية للسيادة على الغذاء لخدمة المجتمع العربي عبر تمكين وتعزيز سيادة المجتمعات الفقيرة على الغذاء وإقرار العدالة في الاستفادة من المصادر والمواد الطبيعية الأساسية. إذن جاء هذا يعني للإجابة على مشاكل المنطقة العالم العربي التي تعيش يعني كأكثر المناطق اعتمادا على الواردات للحصول على الغذاء، وهي أشد المناطق تضرراً من مشكلة الغذاء العالمية، وتعتبر أكبر مستورد للقمح عالمياً. هذا الأمر الذي يجعل المنطقة العربية عرضة ليس فقط لتقلب الأسعار ولكن كذلك يعني لأزمات وصراعات، وتعود يعني بنتائج وخيمة على الأمن الغذائي يعني، والمعاناة يعني كبيرة في العالم العربي من هذه الصراعات. ويمكن القول أن السياسات الغذائية والبيئية الزراعية في العالم العربي تؤدي دور أساسي في رسم هذه المستويات من الأمن الغذائي في المنطقة، وانخفاض الاستثمار الزراعي في تعزيز الإنتاج يعني إنتاج الغذاء. الجامعة الوطنية للقطاع الفلاحي التي هي عضو في هذه الشبكة والتي أشتغل فيها يعني كعضو كتابة تنفيذية، تعمل على هذا الموضوع منذ 30 سنة وتعتبر هذا الموضوع بالغ الأهمية. الجائحة بيّنت أنه يعني كل مواقف الشبكة والجامعة من داخلها يعني كانت مواقفنا صائبة حتى قبل الجائحة. وقبل الجائحة كنا ننعت بالعدميين، والآن أصبح الكل يقر بأن أهمية السيادة الغذائية هي موضوع مهم جدا، وأن المنتجين المحليين محددين مركزيين لمختلف الأنظمة الغذائية والسياسات الزراعية والصيد البحري وتربية المواشي. إذا بالإضافة لهذا فنحن نناهض الشركات المتعددة الاستيطان ونناهض الزراعة التصديرية التي اتخذتها الدول في العالم العربي يعني إحدى ركائز الفلاحة والاقتصاد عندنا. إذا المستقبل الغذاء والزراعة يعني بيد الفلاحين والعاملين يعني بالمناطق القروية بالنسبة لنا. وكيف ندافع على هذه الرؤية؟ ندافع عليها من خلال تنظيم هذه الفلاحين والنضال على المطالب التي يطالبون بها على أساساً الأرض، الماء، وسائل الإنتاج التي تسخر يعني جلها لكبار الملاكين، ويتم انتزاع الأراضي الجماعية للفلاحين الصغار. إذن ما ينتظرنا هو يعني عقد آخر من النضال يتطلب منا فيه تحديات كبيرة يجب معالجتها بشكل جماعي لبناء مجتمع أفضل. يتطلب منا تضامن أممي، يعني مواجهة العولمة يحتاج لعولمة النضال. وتحياتي، انتهت مداخلتي.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Lorelai Covero from Ibon International. And Ibon International is a capacity building institution which works internationally, especially in the global south. And we envision the future of food and agriculture in our organization as food sovereignty for all, where people's rights are at the center and at the center of the whole chain of production, distribution, and consumption. And we also we have been advocating for this vision for some years already, on the aspects of capacity building, especially grassroots organizations and social movements in terms of participatory researches, production of knowledge materials, which aim to promote people-centered alternatives in the form of webinars and trainings and so on. And we also bring the demands and key asks of from the grassroots and of the people through advocacy engagements and in the regional and international arenas. And also we see that the biggest challenges for our organization at Ibon International in advocating for this vision are one, in the Philippines where we are based, we see the closing civic and democratic space as one barrier. And we also see this not just in the Philippines, we also see this in other countries of the world. For example, in Indonesia and in Kenya, especially under the policies related to COVID-19 health protocols, where policies are more militarized and policed. And we also see, aside from this, even before the COVID pandemic, we see the structural and systemic barriers as barriers that people's organizations and social movements have to respond to and be part of the demands to respond to in terms of giving solutions to alternatives to food systems in the global arena. And now we are faced with the COVID-19 pandemic. We see that global civil society organizations, especially those in the grassroots on the front lines of the pandemic, to be able to respond to government response which are repressive and which violates the rights of the people and unscientific, should be responded to by the people. Yeah. So that's our view from Ibon International, which is based in the Philippines. So thank you very much.
Good morning and good afternoon, friends. I am Azra Talat Said from Pakistan, and I am currently the chairperson for Asia Pacific Research Network. Our network was formed in 1997 and very much a movement builder. It evolved out of a conference in Canada in 1997, and its first research conference was in 1999 against the WTO and its impact of trade liberalization on Asian countries. We are basically a regional research network and are very deeply rooted in the social movements of our region, of our countries, of our small towns, of our peasant movements, of our workers' movement. We started as a 21-member network, and now we are more than 56, and we have participation from Asia Pacific, including the Middle East. I will not really take much time in introducing ourselves because I feel I will be speaking later also, but I would really like to emphasize that our heart is in service to the people, and the service is based on ensuring that we have the capacity to research the heart of imperialism, no matter what the movement is, whether it is our workers' movement, it is our youth movement, it is our farmers' movement, it is the landless, it is the indigenous people. We ensure that we stand up and bring out the facts which are crippling the lives of our people, which has leashed COVID-19 on our people, where thousands are dying, thousands. I am just next to India, and so many of our comrades are now facing acute life-threatening disease. And so APRN is committed, is determined that our movements will be based on scientific facts, will be based on scientific social movements, which will challenge the current capitalist notion of false promises, false solutions, false science. It is based in an octopus, in a grotesque octopus of trying to strangle the entire planet, the life out of this planet. And we stand very, very strong and very, very committed to bringing down this octopus called capitalism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Azra. Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. We're gonna take 10 to 15 minutes now to talk about corporate capture of the UNFSS. We're welcoming a smaller panel here with 5 of the former presenters. The big question here is, why is the corporate capture a concern? So we're going to start with that. Does anybody want to share their opinions first?
Yeah. Can I share?
Of course, please.
Yeah, I think it defeats the goal of establishing a sustainable food system, as the United Nations says it should, because it aligns the global food production system to the interests of the market, which is mainly focused on profit generation. So I think it defeats the whole purpose of the sustainable goal.
Gertrude, do you want to add anything, or Henry?
Yeah, I thought we had panelists in this one.
Yeah,
this is the second panel, isn't it?
This is the one with you.
Okay. So my concern with the corporate capture of the Food System Summit is that GMOs, that we know that corporations are in charge of that Food System Summit, and their agenda is to push the GMOs on the agenda. Therefore, GMOs will become policy. They will become law. Nutrient guzzling GMOs, which contaminate soil with chemical fertilizer, which dry aquifers and kill off pollinators, are a potential threat to our land and livelihoods. Our culture and food systems, it must be stopped. The fragile economies of Africa will not survive the onslaught of AGRA with such profit-hungry multinational corporations in the lead. There are, however, organizations that are weak and struggling financially, but have the moral authority to stand and stare GMO's money in the eye and say a resounding no. This UNFSS is giving a platform to corporations to peddle lies and half-truths.
Yeah.
A multinational profit-oriented corporations led summit will push for GMOs, fertilizer, and pesticides. It is a global policy space whose capture means that the fight for food sovereignty has lost ground. We must defend what we have achieved. We must use every opportunity not to lose ground. The gains we have made cannot be reversed. We need to demonstrate at multiple scales and in multiple contexts that the model we are advancing is feasible and viable. Then I have just one more concern. That is that multinational corporations and smallholder farmers have different values. While the former value profit, the latter values the integrity of ecosystems. meaningful input of smallholder farmers, respect for indigenous knowledge, consideration for biodiversity such as bees and earthworms will not be taken into account. They will not tell the truth that hunger is political, that food insecurity in Africa is not only as a result of low agricultural production, but it's a question of justice, democracy, and political will. That's our concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Gertrude. Let's have Azra fill in and then Henry next.
Thank you so much, Lauren. The question is why we are opposing the food summit being organized by the United Nations. I think that question has been the most compelling question since the past 2 decades, a bit more, actually ever since capitalist agriculture has come through. But with neoliberalism, we have the people's movements across the world have come up with the word food sovereignty. And there is a reason for that. Number one, that the entire food system production based on corporate capture is really a very, very unjust system, which has taken away food, human rights entirely from that production system. There is people who produce, the small producers, whether they are fisherwomen, whether they are indigenous people, whether they are pastoralists, do not have the food which they are producing. They go hungry, whereas people, those who do not produce enough, 1% of this world's economy, throwing away food. So the injustice is good. The second point is, so apart from the human rights approach, which is very, very critical, the second point is an equitable food system. And what do we mean by that? We bring back the context of colonization, because neoliberalism is nothing but neo-colonization. And the kind of chains that they have put on our food systems and means that everything once again is flowing to the capitalist countries, to the rich economic blocs, and the rest of the people are left starving. Then we have an issue of health systems, healthy health food systems. And COVID-19 has shown us very clearly that there is nothing left in terms of a sane world now. A lot of the extreme destruction of diversity has unleashed these diseases, and God help us, because they say there are many other pandemics in the formation. We have thrown billions and billions of dollars in intoxicating a world with pesticides. We have created food systems which grow food, which is nothing but actually, we think we are eating food, but it is not food. It is just fat, it is carbohydrate, it is not nurturing either the earth or the people or the atmosphere, anything. So the whole system is extremely unhealthy, from the humans to the plants to the animals, the entire natural system. Then my last point is sustainable food system. This current system has no capacity to be sustainable. We have thrown everything in the name of capitalism, in the name of producing more and more. And maybe we are producing more and more, but producing just toxic nonsense. And this we cannot allow, where people are malnourished, where people are impoverished, where people are being thrown in jail when they ask for the rights. The most basic right is right to land. The most basic right is the right to own our own seeds, to grow the kind of food we want based on agroecology, based on our own traditional methods, extremely scientific methods. I come from Pakistan, India, where civilizations are more than 5,000 years old, where we know what agriculture is. We are very proud to say that we know how to grow our own food, which is healthy and nutritious and fills everybody's system. So we challenge this. We do not allow the corporates to come and take over our systems, and we will make sure that no matter on what grounds they come, we will have enough facts to overpower their nonsense. But those facts really need a very strong people's movement. They do not agree to our facts. So unless we have the majority of the people on the streets, our masses are there on the streets, we will have a very difficult time in overcoming the corporate capture. So the entire belief of the Asian movements is bring everybody out on the streets, whether it is our children, it is our elderly, it is our women, it is our youth, it is our students, it is our workers, and we will do that. And we are working very, very hard to ensure that kind of participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Azra. We're going to move to Henry and Shania to answer the question of what it actually looks like on the ground. What are the implications of this corporate capture and what does it mean to the folks on the ground in your communities? Henry, do you want to start?
Sí, a ver, desde nuestra perspectiva creo que nuestro análisis es orientar el tipo de sistema que tenemos, es orientar cómo el capitalismo históricamente ha creado las condiciones y ahora con el neoliberalismo de seguir esa visión colonialista, esa visión de anular toda la posibilidad de soberanía de los pueblos. El problema de la cooptación corporativa de todo el sistema alimentario es parte del sistema neoliberal, es parte de estas políticas donde su intencionalidad lógicamente es crear poder económico bajo control, lógicamente, de los poderes de los países desarrollados y de sus transnacionales. Nos parece que tenemos que analizar críticamente que el problema que tenemos en el mundo es un problema estructural. Es un problema de cómo está distribuida la riqueza, de cómo está distribuido la tierra. En América Latina y el Caribe, cada vez se presentan nuevas formas de saqueo. El extractivismo, los productos de agroexportación, que es la manera de darle vida pues a este sistema mercantilista, ¿no? Entonces me parece que tenemos que ir en ver causas y sobre esa base ver alternativas. Ahora, ¿qué escenarios nos presenta esta realidad? Pues lógicamente una agudización de la problemática global. Tenemos ahora toda la situación pandémica que ha puesto a las grandes mayorías de las poblaciones en una situación más crítica, pero no queda ahí, no queda ahí. Nuestros países ahora dependen de importar productos alimentarios. O sea, la tierra que tradicionalmente ha servido milenariamente para dar vida, para producir alimentos sanos, ahora han sido expropiados y ahora sirven precisamente para generar estos productos que no sirven para un sistema alimentario sostenible. Nosotros cuestionamos mucho este tipo de iniciativas como las que genera Naciones Unidas porque pensamos que es una forma de desmovilizar la lucha de los pueblos, de ponerle un rostro humano a una problemática que no se resuelve con campañas, no se resuelve con planes de maquillaje. Por eso la importancia, y me sumo a lo planteado anteriormente, de la necesidad que los pueblos tienen que unirse de manera global y asumir el reto de tomar el poder político y tomar el poder económico para poder generar los cambios. Es la única salida. Entonces, tenemos que tener cuidado que estas agendas globales no nos desmovilicen y asumir una posición cada vez más crítica y más activa en términos de liberar a nuestros pueblos.
Thank you, Henry. Shania.
Yeah. Thanks. It's a great opportunity to listen to all the speakers. The corporates, we know, for profit. The states are supposed to be, the political states are supposed to be for the welfare of the people. Here, the states are withering away from their responsibilities and playing to the tune of the corporates in the name of United Nations systems. And the food system, UN Food System Summit is basically a playground for the corporates, looking the states how they play according to their tune, not for the people's purpose. So the corporates live and earn on the incomes of the people are only to expropriate the resources and tackle the governments to work for them. So it is no way concerned to the human beings, no way concerned to the people who have been nurturing the nature, protecting the water from the pollution, who have been looking after the forests, land, soil, seeds, everything has been forcefully taking over. Example is in India. The government has come out with 3 legislations in tune to hand over the total land of the country to the corporates to produce the food, not for Indians, but for outsiders. Despite of 200 days of continuous struggle, the government is not listened to the people. So what for? So today, the corporate capture, it is not, it has started now, ever since the United Nations formed. It is to kill any nation which has been growing independently with its own people's choices, has been really genesis, put the seeds when we build these United Nations systems, basically to work as an extended arm of the corporates. These corporates and then the neoliberal forces or the colonial forces could not survive more than 50 to 70 years when they left their colonies. So now they come with different ways to see that these are all taken. So we will not allow these kind of things. And we know that the corporates are not the solution, but for the democratic institutional that needs to be protected in the countries, and also support the whatever the people's knowledge systems and practices that are there in the countries to protect our soil, water and forest. So it is in that context, we completely oppose them because they grab our land. They grab our land and they displace us from the means of livelihood. So they manipulate our policies in their favor, and so we oppose them. And they take over whatever the meager resources are with the communities, forcefully using the law as a tool. So we are going to put out these corporations, exposing them, not to allow the countries, and also see that the governments which are supporting such kind of systems need to be exposed and generate the support from the people's movements, and see that these kind of governments are getting exposed, and really genuine people's agrarian reforms has to be taken, where the land should be in the hands of the people, seeds should be in the names of the people who have been depending on the land, and the people should have the right to produce their own food. It is only possible when the corporates are driven away from our soil and from our land and our countries. And it is only possible we throw away these autocratic fascist governments that are there in our countries. So it is a genuine call of these people's movements to join in the pre-meetings or side parallel meetings of the United Nations Food System for Summit. This is not the people's choice, it is the corporate choice. We will have our own choice to expose these characters and then see that we restore our rights.
Thank you, Shania. Thank you. Thank you. Right before we move into the next session, Lei, do you want to add what's going on in the Philippines and your perspective there?
Yeah. In the Philippines, even before the pandemic, our agricultural sector is on the death knell. You know, it's dead. We are a rice-eating country and we're importing rice. So our rice farmers, our rice industry is dead, even before the pandemic, and worse during the pandemic. So now I am in solidarity with our comrades in India, with our comrades who have stated their situation all over Asia and in the Arab region. even before the pandemic, our farmers have been suffering, and we are not able to produce our own, basic food that we need. Rice, that's rice. And now during the pandemic, it's worse. So aside from killing the rice industry and the agricultural industry in the Philippines, now we have been dealing with for years, the killings, of our land rights defenders. So on top of the COVID-19 pandemic, now this is being used as an excuse for the farmers protesters to violate their rights. So that's another problem that we're facing in the Philippines right now.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So now we're going to talk about the Global People's Summit that the coalition is organizing. I'd love to invite Razan and Sarojeni to introduce the summit and the agenda for that.
Thank you so much. I will just a second. I want to take the interpretation. Okay, in this session, I will speak about the rationale of the Global People's Summit, and then my colleague Saro Rengam will elaborate on what we mean by equity, healthy, and sustainable food systems, and she will also discuss the components of the Global People's Summit. In April last year, the PCFS launched a sign-on statement calling to revoke the 2019 strategic partnership between the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. We submitted the statement to concerned UN offices, such as the Committee on World Food Security, CFS, and UN officials, including the Secretary General Antonio Guterres and its Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food, Michael Fakhri. Our key message in the statement is clear. We reject the corporate hijacking of the 2021 UN Food System Summit. The World Economic Forum will exploit the UN Food System Summit to streamline neoliberal globalization, which it has espoused for the past 50 years. A corporate-led food system summit only serves the political elites and billionaires, like Rockefellers, Bill Gates, among others. We have many of them in the Arab region as well. Corporate monopoly would sidetrack the root causes of perennial hunger, malnutrition, and extreme poverty in the world. With that premise, we must link our arms and raise our unity higher to fight for food systems which put our fundamental rights above profit, our planet over corporations, our sovereignty over monopolies. Indeed, there's a need for Global People's Summit on food systems, for People's Summits. It's being led by the rural people of the Global South, the hungry, those living in conflict countries, the most oppressed and marginalized of the world. The People's Summit, it's a counter event to the UN Food System Summit. With us here tonight are the members of the organizing committee that come together to work for a People's Action Plan to realize a just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food system. And I give the voice for Saro to speak about the components of this Global People's Summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Razan. Why just equitable, healthy, and sustainable food system? Because we feel that at the core, our food systems should embody the right to life and human dignity. but the current food systems are against the poorest of the poor, structured to maximize profit. So our summit will focus on a human rights-based approach to transform our food systems into realizing the right to safe, healthy, and culturally appropriate food for all. And it's unacceptable that almost a third of the world do not have regular access to safe and nutritious food, despite the growing surplus in production. We have enough to feed the world, and yet we have so many going hungry and who are malnourished. We know that our food systems, as we know, connect all of us never before. But it is based on unequal trade routes, inequality, and plunder. So what we are looking for is a people's right framework to transform our food system and to build on the production and trade that is decolonized, that is based on solidarity and lasting peace. So we need the people's right to development and sovereignty ensured. We also think that the right to healthy food and should also encompass a healthy planet. And as you know, previous speakers have spoken about how the environment has been degraded, and therefore what we need is a support for agroecological, traditional, artisanal, and smallholder production that will shift from fossil fuel hungry agriculture and food waste prone corporate farming and transnational distribution chains to a sustainable food system that focuses and promotes agroecology, that will harmonize humanity's need and aspirations to our planetary boundaries. And for that, we believe there are 4 principles: the people's right to adequate, safe, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food. 2, upholding rural people's rights to land, production, and resources. And that covers all the small food producers, from pastoralists, agricultural workers, to fisher folk and peasant and women farmers, of course. Promoting the 3rd principle is to promote people's agroecology and sustainability in production, distribution, and consumption. And then putting people's food sovereignty and democracy at the core of food and agriculture policy. So these are the 4 principles that we will aspire to and campaign for and work towards. And so what is the Global People Summit on Food Systems? It will be to put the voices of the marginalized at the helm of agenda setting in the transformation of our food systems, to expose the neoliberal agenda and corporate capture of the UN Food System Summit, and present an actionable pro-people and pro-planet alternative. So the main components would be the Global People Summit of Food Systems. This will be all the co-organizers, and we're hoping to get more co-organizers to be part of this People Summit. And it'll be 3 days. We will have a street conference in every day in different countries, in different regions. And it will be in September 2021. At the end of it, we hope to have a People's Action Plan to realize our goal of transformation of the current food regimes. Then we will have open spaces for participants, organizations to organize virtual and on-ground activities, from webinars to cultural activities, exhibits, anything that would highlight our struggle and what we are calling for. We are also in preparation. We will plan regional, sectoral, and national summits to support the People's Summit at the end, and the action plans. One of the things that we also want to ensure is a people-led participatory research on food systems. And this would be led by the people's movements and civil society, and it will be actionable solutions to the current food and rights crisis. And it could include a critique of the UNFSS, agroecology and climate change. The research could cover food sovereignty and the right to development, and human rights and peasants' rights to land. Then the third component is for us, we will do a campaign to engage the official UN food systems, as well as we'll continue to demand inclusivity, transparency, and accountability in the process. At the same time, we will encourage the networks to engage directly with the process to amplify the voices and aspirations of the marginalized inside. So we will do outside People's Summit and inside with our friends and allies who will be inside. We hope to amplify our calls for a really transformation of food production and food and agriculture production. So through the People's Summit, we hope to develop further and broaden the demands to include an extensive range of right holders and peoples, especially from the global south, a people's action to realize the just, equitable, and sustainable and healthy food systems that would be our outcome of the People's Summit. Thank you.
Thank you, Saro, and thank you, Razan, for setting the stage. We're welcoming the next panel, which is Jitin, Siva, Badia, and Hakeem. I think we should focus on how organizations, your members, allies, and the greater audience can get involved in the Global People's Summit. Now that we understand what the agenda is, can we focus on that and invite the greater community in ways to join and stand in solidarity? Does anybody
Right, thank you, Lauren.
Jitin? Yeah.
Yes, I'll go first. Thank you very much. Yes, I think it's really, really important that we bring in the voices from the different sectors and different communities with different diverse food systems. And when you talk about bringing the different voices, it is extremely important to hear, the different forms of food systems, and also the challenges. Like, for example, the indigenous peoples. There are several cases. There are the realities of how indigenous food systems are sustainable, equitable, or climate friendly. For example, all the positive aspect, it has to be highlighted further, while also highlighting the challenges, the increased challenges. So which means it's really, really important to ensure the participation of the indigenous community and other communities who have very viable and strong food system to bring out their resistance and also their action plan to reclaim the land, to defend the land, and also their to assert their food systems. So, like for the indigenous community, for example, it will be really important that we bring the voice of the different indigenous communities from all over who are affected by the extractive industry or agribusiness or the new liberal policies that undermine their food system. And also, it's really important to expose and highlight the failure of corporate capture of agriculture, through the different case studies, and it's really important to come up with concrete research, bringing out the different cases and different realities. And what is also important is also to bring cases of successful resistance, and because that's really important to hear the voices of the resistance, and we can build in on the action plan that Saro was mentioning earlier, on how we can build up the action plan based on the strong resistance and also the successful case studies of resistance. Yeah, I think that's extremely important to ensure the participation. And then, of course, in terms of ensuring the participation from the East constituency, it's really, really important that we reach out to the, not just to the members, but also to the different groups who work at not just at the national level, but it's important to bring out the voices from the subnational and even from the different diverse communities whose voice are difficult to represent. Yeah, And then, of course, we really need to come up with, and of course, yes, Wish has already mentioned, come up with a concrete, strong action plan to build up a stronger unity and resistance, so that we reclaim our food system, so that we assert our food system. And for the indigenous peoples, it's really important that we assert our self-determination over our land and resources. So which means it's really important to ensure the participation of the different groups who are, strongly involved in asserting their self-determination over the land and resources and even the food system. So it's really the focus is more to ensure stronger participation by reaching out to the diverse constituency and sector. And then when you talk about participation, then it's not just a participation. We also need to be sensitive to the challenges in the participation. So it's good that we ensure the different forms of participation, not just online, but because there might be other communities who are unable to join online as well. So maybe through different forms, cultural, and then also considering the challenges associated with the participation as well. Thank you. Looking forward to further discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jitin. Siva, you haven't been able to speak yet. Are you able to call in now? I don't believe so. I think there's a thunderstorm where Siva is in Sri Lanka. So let's move to Badia. Badia, are you able to share?
أهلا. بالطبع. إذا أنا بالنسبة لي كمساهمة في هذا الموضوع أظن أنه من المهم جدا أن نقوم ب إحداث وتنظيم هذا المؤتمر، هذا القمة العالمية للشعوب، لأنها فرصة لإظهار كل مطالب التنظيمات والمجتمعات التي تعيش هذا الاضطهاد والاستغلال من طرف النظام الرأسمالي. وأظن أن المؤتمر يجب أن يكون فيه أكبر عدد من التنظيمات، سواء الوطنية والقاعدية والمحلية والإقليمية، حتى نتمكن من إسماع صوت الجميع، من فلاحين، صيادين، نساء، شباب، شعوب أصلية، لإسماع كل المطالب. وينتظرنا كذلك، أظن أنه من حيث تنظيم هذا القمة ينتظرنا كذلك بالموازاة، استراتيجيات للنضال وللتعبئة وللتضامن الأممي، لأنه لا يكفي فقط تنظيم محطات موضعية فقط. يجب أن نساهم في خلق دينامية، لأن ما يقوم به الشركات في الموازاة هي عمل منظم مهيكل للقضاء على كل وسائل الإنتاج للشعوب المحلية. فأظن أنه يجب أن نفكر بنفس عولمة العولمة يجب أن يقابلها عولمة النضال. هذا هو الفكرة. مؤتمر قمة عالمية، ولكن كذلك استراتيجية للنضال، استراتيجية للتضامن، استراتيجية لوضع كل المطالب تحت ضوء على الساحة العالمية، لتكون بارزة، ويكون كل المواضيع التي تهمنا بارزة: العدالة البيئية والمناخية، الزراعة الأسرية والعائلية كعماد للغذاء في العالم، حقوق الفلاحين، حقوق الفلاحات، حقوق العاملين في المجال القروي، مواضيع عدة. كذلك حقوق الشعوب في أنظمة غذائية صحية وثقافية ملائمة. كل هذه الأفكار أظن أنها مهمة لكي نحملها من أجل تحول مجتمعي راديكالي، لأن هذا ما نحتاجه. نحتاج إلى تحول من نظام رأسمالي جشع إلى نظام يحمي حقوق الشعوب ويحمي حقوق الفلاحين والمزارعين الذين ينتجون الغذاء. وتحية وشكرا.
Thank you very much. Hakeem, what can folks do to support the Global People Summit?
Well, thank you very much. ESAF, Eastern Southern Africa Small Scale Farmers Forum, being comprised of family farmers and smallholder farmers, majority of whom are women, I really believe that we shall be representing the voices of smallholder farmers in Eastern Southern Africa, but as well in the whole continent of Africa. And knowing very well that small-scale farm agriculture in Sub-Saharan Africa has a massive socio-economic importance. We don't only do agriculture for the sake of eating off of crops, but our livelihood. So whoever tampers with the farming system of the small-scale farmers is taking away our livelihood. And we know very well that more than 60% of the population is smallholder farmers on the continent of Africa. About 23% of the Sub-Saharan Africa GDP come from agriculture. And almost 68% in most of the countries, employment is based on agriculture. So when somebody tempers the corporate capital of the food system, tempers with agriculture, they are tampering with our livelihood. The other thing is that what we expect from the Global People's Summit is that we shall be fighting for the rights of the smallholder farmers. And this, we need recognition for our contribution towards building and feeding the nation and the people of Africa. And then the other thing is ownership, control, and use of natural resources. We know very well that our natural resources are being plundered, being taken away by the corporations. This we shall not accept, because where we don't have our natural resources under our control, then our livelihood is also tempered upon. Then there is the equal share of the national resource envelope. You find that the corporations influence a lot on the national policies in our countries, in that the policies which come out do not favor the small-scale farmers. So at the end of the day, the share which comes from the national budget and other resources do not favor the small-scale farmers. So we feel that during this Global People's Summit, we shall be able to champion and choice out our concerns. Then the other issue is to reclaim our land user rights, water and seed rights, in that we can protect our environment and biodiversity. You know that over the past 2 decades, multinational companies and their mercenaries like Bill Gates, Agora, Rockefeller Foundation, to name but a few, are promoting hybrid seeds, which, you know, everybody has been talking about hybrid seeds, GM seeds, chemical fertilizers and pests to enable a few foreign large companies so control the food production and distribution in Africa. They are doing this through acquisition of African seed enterprise and also by piracy. I can quote by piracy. They even take the patent our seeds. They have never asked for permission to patent the traits, and at the end of the day, they bring back the seed to sell to us without our where they not even get consent. So we feel that capturing the public research institutions and change of national regional seed and fertilizer laws should also be something we should be looking at when participating in the Global People's Summit, of which for us, we believe that promoting agriculture is the best way to go. I also need to uphold our food sovereignty. The right to produce and grow, share and get involved in determining the policies of our food system shall ensure ownership and shall help us have a just, healthy, equitable and sustainable food system. Why should our constituents, the audience get involved in the People's Great Summit? One of them is the possible implication of the corporate capture of the Union Food System of 2020 would mean a lot to the small scale farmers. So engaging policymakers and other stakeholders like in the East African community, the South African Development Committee, AU, and all country chapters engaging their at the national level shall be one way of which shall help us to counter-interact the corporate capture. You know very well that there has been heavy pollution of soil, water through chemical-intensive agriculture, industrial agriculture, total loss of our food sovereignty, total loss of our land, water and seed, loss of our seed ownership, immense loss of biodiversity, and direct diversity. All of these have been happening on our continent of Africa. Total dependence on the multinational companies, loss of income, loss of dignity, and loss of life. To improve that narrative, being presented cannot, that narrative which is being presented at the UNF cannot work. But what we have been practicing since time memorial is sustainable, resilient, especially through during the climate change crisis, and that is agroecology. So we believe that the UN food system, by bringing the corporations on board, shall not allow us to go ahead practicing agroecology. As I conclude, what we shall be doing shall engage media to popularize the 9 demands. You know, during the COVID-19, PSFS developed the 9 demands, and we shall also be able to showcase the objectives of the People's Summit. Then we shall mobilize other stakeholders so that we can build alliances. Then we shall hold seminars, workshops over the same for all members to understand what the Global People's Summit is all about. And lastly, if we get more support on board, this movement shall bail us out of this hijacked so-called UN food system and its outcomes, and it will help stop the imposition of any other initiative that might be brought in the future, and it will be a big lesson to the corporation and multinational companies. We want our future in our hands, not in the hands of the hungry and ill-heeled corporations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hakeem. I want to encourage everyone to stay tuned and learn more and support the Global People Summit. You can tune into peoplesummit.foodsob.org. Josh is sharing the links, right? You can also volunteer for the Global People Summit. If you want to start a campaign, if you're an organization, or if you want to connect with PCFS, just reach out to secretariat@foodsovereignty.org. As we wrap up, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Sorry that this went late, but this is a very important topic, and there's a lot of brilliant voices here that we all need to be heard. I'd like to ask JC from the PCFS to make a closing statement, if that's okay, JC. I know I'm calling you on the call, on the fly, but it'd be wonderful to hear you talk about solidarity and how folks can support the movement from afar.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry I don't have a video right now. I'm JC again, a staff from PCFS. We encourage everyone who is hearing this, as of course discussed by our chair. I think Sylvia would like to close this for us. Sylvia is our co-chair, is based in Manila, and is currently engaged with the civil society mechanism and other advocacy work for PCFS. Ms. Sylvia?
Hello, everyone. First, thank you very much for this sort of kick-off with regards to our campaigning and lead up to the Global People Summit. Almost everything has been said. I think all of our colleagues, our friends have expounded on why there should be a Global People's Food Summit and why there should be a retake of a genuine food summit by really amplifying that from the people's voices, the marginalized, the poor, the rural food producers, the agricultural workers, if we would like to refer to them as all of the working peoples of the world, so that we can really build a just, an equitable, a healthy, and a sustainable food system for the future, for the working peoples of the world. So we are looking forward for the working together, all of us, and that we will continue to get in touch with one another, to promote what we can, to listen to one another from the grassroots level, from all levels at the local, community, national, regional, and global. So here's a heads up to the coming Global People Summit. That is all that I would have to say. And thank you very much, and hope to see you more and more this coming months.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. For everybody for tuning in, thank you for listening. Thank you for receiving all of this information. Please, please Google all this information. Look at the articles in The Guardian and in other resources that are talking about the UN Food System Summit and the problematic way that it was created, designed, and the agenda was set. Please, please look for that information. Please join peasant and indigenous and smallholder farmer communities in standing up to this unbelievably insensitive approach and exclusionary approach to setting up a food system summit that will set the next 20 years in motion. So this is really important. And thank you for tuning in. Please follow Growing Culture anywhere you can find it, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Get involved, reach out to us. We are happy to make connections. If your media representations, please support in amplifying this message. Together we are stronger. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you PCFS and all the member organizations. We stand in solidarity with you. Thank you interpreters. Sorry it went late. We're so grateful for your translations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Razan.
you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks,
Thank
thanks,
you,
thanks
Lauren.
a lot. Thanks a
Lauren,
lot.
Josh.
Thank you.
Thank everyone. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
In solidarity, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, solidarity.